We're back with the Real People Multi-Game Solitaire Mega Tournament. Here is the score for Ideology, the War of Ideas, which is the game we're playing here today. You probably know that from the title. Let's take a look at, I feel like the game is, getting towards the end game now. I think things could start cruising unless we run into a situation where people are preventing each other from winning. So let's take a look at people's chances for victory and maybe their potential paths. I think that would be fun to begin this session's little bit. So we'll start with Flips here, our fundamentalist player. Okay, Flips had a good turn last turn. She took Turkey. Iran is maxed out, so she's got about 7, potential of 8 points. She's got a good chance of taking Israel here, which could bring her up to a potential of 12. All she would need to do is take Israel and then successfully fend off attacks while she builds it up, and then she would be done. Problem is she doesn't have much of an infrastructure, so that might be difficult. Fat Matt here, he's not looking that great. He could be taking South Africa soon, which could put him in the potential 10 range. He does have a better infrastructure, however, so he might have a chance of taking that country and then getting enough nukes or something to get the next extra points he needs to win. I think Stubby here has an interesting opportunity. Okay, he's got some good scoring potential just on his board right now. However, he's also getting his hooks into Great Britain, and he has one of the strongest infrastructures there is, except when it comes to extending outward. That won't play a part in Great Britain, however, because he has adjacency with France. So as long as he keeps France, he could keep going at Great Britain, and if he takes it, he would have a pretty sure means of getting towards to the end of the game. So that's nice for him. Now, Qteni, she had a rough time. If you look at our independent nations, she's got her hooks in a lot of different places. So if she could get any of those back, that would definitely help her. However, right now, she's got a mainly expansionist infrastructure. She doesn't have anything defensive, and I think that's why she lost Iceland so quickly last turn. Finally, we have Cobweb here. Cobweb is doing pretty nicely. She's got a good chance of taking Iceland. If she has Iceland, then she's got a potential for 12 points just with these two countries, Iceland and Great Britain. I'd just like to capture the board state before the foreign phase, or not before the foreign phase, before the conflict phase. Just had the foreign phase, not a lot happened. Only the capitalists played one card, I forget, right here on Brazil. And Fat Matt did a couple of other things. Development phase was pretty quiet too. A lot of people are holding on to cards for some conflicts here. Stubby has his whole stack, as does Cobweb. She's gearing up to protect Great Britain. I think he's gearing up to take it. Other than that, there's a lot of pretty juicy looking pies on the table here that people would like to get a hold of. So we kind of have two mini conflicts going on. I wouldn't say they're mini, they're conflicts of ideas. Stubby and Cobweb, like we already talked about, over Great Britain. And then on the board, we have this conflict. Cobweb's not going to be able to focus on Iceland, so if Qteni has the cards, she should be able to take it back. There's also a tussle over Israel. I don't know. Both of them have cards. She only has one though, so I don't know how good of a chance she has of taking Israel, but she might be able to. Qteni only has 2, so, and her military, Flip's military is untouchable. So we'll see what happens with Israel. And here's how things shook out. Israel stayed the same. No change there. Iceland did go back to Qteni. When I do the assessment phase, she is going to get it back. In terms of the ideological war over Great Britain, the British were able to actually, well, not the British, the imperialist idea was actually able to convince the military that imperialism was better than fascism. At the same time, the business leaders started to think that maybe fascism would help their business. So that's what happened there. So it's kind of a trade-off. It was less of a well, I guess they had roughly the same number of cards, so that made sense. The turn order really came into play. If their turn orders were reversed, I don't know that Cobweb would have regained any ground. So, other than that, looks like South Africa's going to Fat Matt. Iceland's going back home to the capitalists. Israel is unchanged. And we'll move on. So, a lot has changed. Let's take a look at our diplomacy chart. One thing you might notice is that quite a lot of people are now at war with the communists and the religious fundamentalists, with Flips and with Fat Matt. There's also been some easing of relations that were formerly tense, most notably the relations between the fascists and the imperialists. So let's see what exactly happened. So the fascists actually made quite a lot of ground in Great Britain. Not enough to sway it into the independent or into their own region. They're one card away. So that is happening. But while that is happening, and while Qteni is in the process of losing Iceland once again due to Cobweb, there was quite a lot of gain over in this area. If we look at our scoreboard right now, Flips has 11. This next turn could very well be our last, unless everyone else gangs up on her, which it looks like they may be intending to do. Fat Matt also is doing quite well. He pulled in Brazil and South Africa that turn, and Qteni pulled in India and Israel. Actually, Fat Matt, I think, just pulled in Brazil. Our development phase is done, and our two leaders are the only ones who did anything. Flips actually played all of her cards. She just completely buffed up all of her things there. I think she's just trying to hang on. She wasn't able to do anything to help her score, so that's where she's at. Fat Matt, for his part, he just added to Russia, so Russia's going to go up to 6 at the end of this turn unless something happens. And that's all he did. He kept the rest of his cards. Everyone else kept all of their cards. That's where we are. Mongolia and everything else was left alone in the foreign phase. We're now a couple rounds into the conflict phase, and it's looking like Flips is definitely not going to be able to take this game this turn. Turkey is going to be leaving her control. Looks like Israel also might be parting her company. Qteni went after India a bit. There's a lot of cultural cards in India, however, so I don't think it's going to be lost. So Qteni took a chunk out of South Africa. Fat Matt did nothing to defend it, so and he hasn't played any cards yet. I don't know. When it became very close, Fat Matt started defending South Africa and just barely managed to hang on to it. By the time he did that, people were pretty much played out for the most part, and that's when he started playing cards in Iceland. Cobweb actually started doing that right before him. However, he managed to replace one of her cards there. So there is going to be quite a lot of shifting around, because also, sort of what happened, I'll give a little narrative of what happened actually. Okay, so people are all shooting their thoughts at the fundamentalist countries, right? And by people, I mean these three right here. Fat Matt's sitting there. He's not doing anything. He's just being fat. A few people take some shots at South Africa, try and take it away from him. He lets the first thought go by. Then when it gets down to it, he starts defending himself a little bit. By then, especially since he had the advantage in terms of cards, people were pretty run down, and so there wasn't a lot they could do to stop him once they saw he was going for Iceland. Stubby took some shots, but Fat Matt was able to defend it and just barely got a hold of it. Stubby, I don't know if I said this already, he also got a hold of Great Britain. So there's going to be a lot of shifting, and I'll just kind of see where the chips have fallen when all is said and done, and we'll see if we have a winner or not. And here is the way things look. have a large pillar here, a much diminished pillar there, pretty sizable pillar here. This is all independent. Stubby almost got a hold of Israel, but he didn't quite have the cards in the end. Cupid Doll has what she's had for quite a while, ever since she lost Iceland. And Cobweb has all the yellow countries she could ever want. So we'll look at the scoreboard, because indeed the game has been played. Alright, you can see right here how it all is said and done and thought and finished. And how it is all finished is like this. Cobweb the Imperialist, 4 points. That's kind of a sad end for her, but I think she got what she wanted. The whole game she was, you know, as I think a lot of imperialists do, they go after the small countries and they just try and conquer what they can. She had her fingers in a lot of pies at the end, though. It seemed like if the game had gone another turn or two, she might have had a big sweep. Who else looked like they could have had a big sweep or a big turnaround is, I think, Stubby. Stubby, I think, got a little distracted from his goals during the process of the game. But he really, I think the kind of retentiveness helped him to kind of like build up this aggression, and then military. I think that got him quite a lot. It did not get him the victory, however. Fat Matt got the victory, and a lot of it had to do with luck of cards, or just kind of how the different interplays turned out. There was a time when it seemed like there was kind of a 2-on-1 situation where it was Stubby and Cupid Doll taking on poor Cobweb and just hammering away at her. And I think Cobweb actually held on pretty well, even taking some territory during that. Not that she got to keep it all, but you know, while she was doing that, both Flips and Fat Matt were just kind of building themselves up and biding their time and getting ready. Fat Matt brought himself back in the turn order, only to surge forward at the end, but not so much to be the front runner and draw all the attacks. He drew some. He didn't have them completely fooled, but by the time, you know, you have those two people on top, it's really hard to take them both down, especially if you're not working so in such a coordinated effort. You know, there was definitely some point grabs going on during that last turn. So that's where we are. Fat Matt will go right beside, maybe in front of, no, opposite Otto right over here, and I'll just move the camera up so you can see where he now sits. There's Fat Matt. You know, and I don't think Fat Matt and I are going to be best friends by any means, but he's certainly not Otto, so I think he can... that smile is getting kind of annoying. For now anyway, I think he can stay up there without any red raspberries or anything like that. I had a lot of fun playing Ideology, the War of Ideas. It was a quick one. Not the best game to video, but some real great characters. So that's it for Ideology, the War of Ideas. It's part of the Real People Multi-Game Solitaire Mega Tournament. The winner of this game, Fat Matt, will be facing Otto in the future in Labyrinth, the War of Ideas 2001 to... should be a fun, exciting game. They're kind of similar in a way, but different. You know, you might look at these two guys and you might think, oh, there's a couple of guys with tight curled hair, and they're kind of smiley. They both seem kind of like they're a little goofy, but I think they're driven. I think they're driven, and that could make for a good game. And they're not identical. You know, Otto, if you recall, is the inventor. He likes boats and women, and Fat Matt is a thespian who does not like to answer questions directly. So that should be a good match.